Welcome back to another episode of Integrative You Radio. You have Dr. Nicole and our friend.
Dr. Nick.
Got allowed you to introduce yourself this time. So we're diving into a topic that is essentially a segue from some of our previous episodes. And one of the reasons this has been brought to our attention is right around the time that we were navigating my mom's recent health complication, which was a stroke. There was a social media post that I came across from a business coach, entrepreneur, and he was actually showcasing his progress from having a stroke the year prior as a young athletic male. And so he was showcasing how running yourself ragged, burning the candle at both ends, high stress, go, 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 can be a combination with other things we're going to talk about in this podcast that can cause, significant issues like a stroke.
A
And
recipe for disaster.
yes, essentially. But it got me thinking about it as I was reading his story. I started realizing that this world of biohacking is actually playing a role in the use of some of the products we're going to talk about that could actually be causing problems in certain individuals. Let's be clear, not all, but certain individuals. And then there's also the other side of entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is one of the most exciting things that Nick and I have embarked upon, but it has its challenges. And if you don't catch yourself and reroute, it can take you down a bad rabbit hole that you start to lose your health. So essentially, I'm giving you little snippets here of the topics we're going to be diving into here. And we're really showcasing light on cardiovascular disease that can develop from high stress, excessive caffeine, um, go, go, go lifestyle in combination with hormone therapy.
AKA the typical entrepreneurial lifestyle.
And also the biohacking, as mentioned,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
there's so many things being peddled out there in the universe of health and wellness, and don't even fucking get me started on that topic because
Well, I mean, not to get off topic, but I think most majority of biohackers are probably entrepreneurs, because they're do-it-yourselfers. They're not taking advice from somebody else.
but I also think, the perception on what biohacking is has to be very clear for the individual. If you're trying to hack yourself so you can work fucking 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, run 75 companies, that's not the point. You want to hack yourself so maybe you have more mental clarity than you ever have in your past. You want to have extreme focus in the hours where you're being creative or you're figuring out your business strategy and your business model. Fantastic. But you can also hack for with really negative intentions that can create a lot of problems. Capito or no capito?
I slightly disagree with this one, but we'll
Okay,
get
let's go. Let's
we'll,
go.
we'll get into that a little
Just get into it,
later.
bro. Just go.
It, it's not what you do, but how you do it, like you were going into. But you said that, it's not okay for somebody to hack because they want to grow 75 businesses, but they can hack for the time to have, the mental clarity to maybe grow the 75 businesses. Um,
I guess I
you
should be
know,
clear to have your hand in every pot in the 75 companies that you run.
and I think it comes down to, you know, every entrepreneur, every CEO, every serial business creator, blah 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 blah. Everybody needs to do it differently. Um, so you have to get crystal clear on who you are and why you're doing it first, and otherwise the ego takes over. And that's when, that's when we get symptoms of poor health, etc. Most entrepreneurs doing that stuff are men, and they get overtaken by the ego, and one of the direct issues is libido.
Mhm.
Um, and that's just a direct feedback that, hey, you're not in alignment, you're doing things that aren't serving you. You're not doing it to fulfill you, you're doing it to fulfill the ego.
Mhm.
And that's, jumping, I guess, more into it right away is, that's the aspect of a stroke. A stroke is a blockage of blood. Blood, when you look at it metaphysically, or the psychosomatic aspect of blood flow, is the circulation of love, self-love. And self-love, not to be woo-woo, it's how congruent are you into serving what's most important to you? Are you truly authentic and serving your highest values? And when you're doing that, you're expressing that form of self-love. And you're allowing that to be easily circulated throughout the body, throughout the arterial, throughout the venous system, that has, when you look at it, that gives you proper oxidation within the blood, that has proper nutrient balances, and all of that energy goes to feed our cells, tissues, and organs. Hi, little Bella.
We have a special guest, everyone. For those of you on YouTube, you see her. And
And
go ahead.
and when we are not serving ourselves, our highest version of ourselves, and we start serving quote unquote the lower ego, that's the driver that breaks us down. And that's where you can get strokes, that's where you can get libido issues, that's where your hair starts falling out, that's where every quote unquote symptom is really created from.
Well, and I think it's interesting what you're saying because I think a lot of times entrepreneurs think that their health went awry because of a lack of time for self-care, lack of time to get to the gym, lack of time to maybe eat healthy food, prep their own meals. And it's so much more than that because it's exactly what you're describing is are you making business moves and decisions out of desperation versus inspiration? Are you actually strategizing on how to create a business that serves you and serves your life? Not that you constantly serve the business. Even if you say, oh, I'm going to serve my business for X amount of time to then get to this level and then I'll do things differently, it never works that way. It's usually you find yourself, you're a decade in or longer, and you're more burnt out than you've ever been. And so, going back to the original topic of this podcast is that when we are kind of in the hamster wheel going and we find ourselves okay, I got a lot of stress going on, I have the never ending to-do list, and I need to do X, Y, and Z, I need to deliver on X, Y, or Z. So we find ourselves tapping into like what can I do to increase my performance in order to accomplish this. And we've found what's so interesting is that, am I echoing? We've found that is interesting is that this individual posted on social media about this specific topic. And then we ended up having a new client who came on who was doing the exact same thing. Entrepreneur, taking testosterone therapy under a lot of stress, drinking caffeine in order to get through his very, very long work days. And then this is something that we go and run labs and we find that, essentially it's a ticking time bomb for a cardiovascular event. And in some cases, this can be stroke related. And in some cases, this could be blood pressure dysregulation causing brain dysfunction. In some cases, this can be heart attack. In some cases, this can be a blood clot. It doesn't have one face.
When you think about blood flow, whatever affects the brain affects the heart, affects, I get right to it, affects the dick. Um,
Yep,
so I mean,
here we are.
it's all the same, you know. To say that it's only affecting one area and really not affecting the other is incorrect. You might not have a symptom in another area yet, but that doesn't mean there's not a problem.
Yeah.
And that's like, you know, you go into the biohacking world, which, you know, biohacking's amazing when you have a full integrative awareness, like in any aspect of life.
Yes.
If you have a full awareness, you can capitalize off of something. But if you don't have a full awareness and you're only going through it with a narrow mind to patch a hole, well, you're going to create another hole.
Yep.
And that's what most people are getting incorrectly with testosterone.
Yeah. And the other thing that our mentor and very revered physician, Dr. Klinghardt, educated us on is that testosterone can is not a great recipe with mercury in the body. And he found that it's something that would actually mobilize mercury. And for those of you that are like, where the hell does mercury come from? Mercury, there's different forms of mercury. There are certain forms of mercury that can be in the body from the silver fillings that either were in your teeth, because a portion of that will always get absorbed by the lymph and the blood vessels, or if you currently have those silver fillings, silver caps, or even certain coatings and sealants that are put on your teeth. And then in addition to that is fish consumption is one of the most well known from large fish like shark, swordfish, tuna, etc. Don't get me wrong, there are many other ways you get exposed to mercury. Fluorescent light bulbs is actually off-gassing mercury. So,
Really quick
a,
to stop, I saw a social media post the other day. I should have copied it and sent it to you, but it had a graph of testosterone and intellect, and it was an actual study that they did.
mhm,
And like, I usually honestly don't give enough to really care, but it was kind of a joke because the post was a joke because they had, you know, high amounts of testosterone, but when that happened, intellect went down.
yeah,
And but then in the top right corner, there was one little dot because it was all like the dots, you know, the
yep, yep,
typical
yep.
scientific diagram. And it was circled and it was pointing to like, who's this fucking guy over here that has high
Ah,
testosterone and like amazing intellect? And but I just looked at it and was like, oh yeah, that makes sense because most people with crazy high amount of testosterone, it's not natural. They're doing it, they're mobilizing mercury that's affecting the nervous system. Intellect's going to go down because they can't process, blah, blah, blah.
yeah.
But you know, there's one outlier that that beat all odds and
I'd
he
be
had high
curious to
testosterone
know,
and
yeah,
intellect.
curious to know who that guy is. But it's interesting because that's what, Klinghardt dropped the bomb and he says, um, testosterone therapy makes you stupid. And we're all like, what? And he primarily was reporting that if there is mercury in your body, and unfortunately there's mercury in a lot of people's systems, that it's going to mobilize that and it's going to affect the nervous system. And exactly what you're talking about, you're going to have intellect go down. And so this is not that there's a direct correlation. It's the testosterone is the cause. It's just the testosterone is mobilizing the mercury, which is the cause. And so a lot of people don't know that. And a lot of practitioners that are recommending testosterone therapy don't know that as well. And so it's looked at as this pretty benign substance, take testosterone and it's going to increase performance. It's going to um, help with energy levels. And this is not just men, this is also women. Because I know a lot of women that like when they tried different hormone replacement therapies and they found that, oh, if I take testosterone, I have more energy. And now I'm long term on testosterone. And so everything, anytime you're putting exogenous hormones into the body, AKA a hormone, a synthetic hormone is getting put into your body, AKA your body didn't make it, the body is looking at that like, where the fuck did that come from? And it has to figure out one, how to use it. It has to figure out how to excrete the excess. But in return, your body is not going to produce those hormones on its own at all because it knows if you're putting it in and your body also makes it, it's going to be too much. So you're actually creating a really bad cycle by putting these hormones in, to the point that your body is no longer going to know how to manufacture these hormones on its own. And it gets to a point when you're on it for years that your body doesn't even know how to use what you're putting in anymore. Your body is really, 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 really freaking smart. And this is one of the reasons why we are such advocates for foundational medicine. I don't even love the term functional anymore, because it's about the foundation. How do you strip away the things that are creating interference with the foundation? The foundation is, how well does your liver work? How well does your lymphatic system work? How well does your blood flow? Like, how well do you feel mentally, emotionally, psychologically? Like, if you can get the foundation to be really strong, you can strip away so many different symptoms and effects. But if you're constantly chasing the effects, which a lot of times functional medicine is still chasing effects, calling it root cause medicine, you're going to have problems. And hormones are always an effect. They're not a root cause. They're always, always, always an effect. And whoever wants to fucking disagree with me, go apply to be on the podcast, because I would love to get into it with you. Because I have 15 years and I've never seen it be a root cause.
How do you really feel about it? Jesus.
Because so many people, functional
So,
medicine
ladies and
doctors, are
gentlemen,
saying,
anger is one of the reasons that your liver gets fucked up.
hey, man, my liver will never be 100%. So here we are. Good thing I have amp coils and flex beams and supplements. We're just trying to get by.
Damn jerseys.
I saw this post and she was like, "I'm not angry. I'm just from Jersey." I was like, "I like you."
And you're half Italian, half Puerto Rican,
And a Scorpio.
Scorpio. Yeah. There's a reason
Yeah.
I'm pretty well in human behavior
Yeah. And also lost a little bit of your hair.
and lost a little bit of my hair. So, we talked about testosterone. Is there more you want to chat about testosterone? Kind of move.
I guess for those of you trying to really just get like the high level simple version of like, how the heck does testosterone therapy, high stress, entrepreneurship make me more susceptible to cardiovascular disease, stroke, heart attack, etc., is essentially when you become more stressed and you flood your body with higher stress hormones, you increase your inflammation, aka your blood vessels become more constricted. So they narrow, they get smaller. So what happens is, one, just from that, it's harder for your blood to flow through your cardiovascular system. Then, if you go and you bring in certain toxic compounds, which unfortunately a lot of us are getting exposed to toxins on a daily basis from the Dunkin' Donuts or the Starbucks coffee, and the takeout food in the restaurants, etc. And then you want to go ahead and put testosterone therapy on top of that, you get a thickening. Oh, and caffeine. You get a thickening of your blood. So now you have these narrowed, more constricted blood vessels with blood that went from the viscosity of water to blood that now has become kind of like oil, like sludge. And this is making it actually more difficult for it to move through the cardiovascular system. So as soon as you have thick blood with narrowed uh, arteries, you're going to have issues with how well the blood can go to certain parts of the body. And because your head is above your heart, your brain is above your heart, your blood has to go up against gravity. So it is going to be harder. I should rephrase this. It's harder for your brain to get blood because it's above your heart, and that's going in the direction against gravity in the first place. Now, if you want to narrow the blood vessels and you want to create a thicker viscosity of your blood, it's even more difficult, which is what creates a susceptibility for ischemic stroke, aka there is a part of the brain that doesn't get enough blood or oxygenation and it will become ischemic. Essentially, cells start to die. So, this is one of the reasons why this combination of stress, testosterone therapy, caffeine, go, go, go lifestyle is going to be most correlated with the possibility for stroke.
You gave me a lot of gems in there. I'm excited.
Did I wink good? I usually look a little.
I mean, it's yeah, I won't. I'll be nice today. So the psychosomatic aspect of that is really, really fun because when you going back to what I said is like when you're optimally serving yourself, you're in a state of the mind is in a state of equanimity, that the support equals the challenge. But when you're not in that state of serving yourself, like when you serve yourself and you're like you don't care about pain, you don't care about pleasure, you're just in the zone. And but when you're not in the zone, you care about pain and you care about pleasure. You know, you're seeking to experience pleasure and avoid pain. And when we do that, especially as entrepreneurs, we tend to, like you said, have high stress. High stress is perception of the mind that there's more challenge than support. Otherwise, there wouldn't be high stress. When you have that, you have the vasoconstriction, that you have more compression coming in, hence more
Mhm.
challenge. The brain, the mind is perceiving more challenge. When we have more challenge, we're in a gravitational state. You talked about blood flow being very hard for it to go up. It's because that when you look at metaphysically, energy is not created or destroyed. It's always just moving. So we're either going down or up. You could think of it in a way as, you know, people talk about trying to become enlightened. When we become more enlightened, we become more radiant. We weigh less. But when we're less enlightened and we're thick-headed and we're more polarized in the mind, we're becoming more gravitational. So when we become more gravitational, we have more viscosity. The blood's harder, it's thicker, it's more sluggish going around. Like you talked about, less oxygen going up. And when we have less oxygen, also that is connected to, like you could think of like tumors, cancers, etc., that they all
Changes in
thrive.
cells.
Yep, that changes in cells, like you talked about with hormones before. Hormones is a biochemical process. One of the last things to change. You go, what changes that first? Well, you have a nerve impulse, electrical impulse to that organ, to that cell that feeds it. But before the electrical pulse, you have an energetic information. That energetic information is the information coming from down from the mind. If the mind is in a state of balance, well, then the cell is balanced and the communication is balanced on the end resort, the hormones. But if the mind isn't balanced, more challenge than support, high stress, then that information goes down to the cell and that creates a change in actually the electrical polarization of the cell. All cells communicate intercellularly with each other, both through a sound wave and through electrical biophoton light wave. And but when these charges get imbalanced, if they can become so imbalanced, well, then it goes from aerobic to anaerobic. And then we have tumor growth, we have cancer growth, we have an amazing environment for parasitic growth, for fungi growth, for mold growth. And then we start labeling these things as diseases, and we're supposed to be, you know, fighting the parasites, fighting the
Yeah.
fungus, fighting the mold, fighting these things, because that's the problem. That's not the fucking problem. That's the effect that we're seeing. And we still have to deal with those things. But those things are the feedback mechanism for us to finally realize that, hey, we're not in alignment with serving ourselves. We're not loving ourselves. And when we can get back in alignment, decrease that stress response that started this, you know, the whole disaster set up to have a stroke, to have brain issue, heart issue,
Yeah.
libido issue. And we remove that causation, we fix that, bring that back into a balance, serving ourselves, being more aligned with our authentic self. And then because we created, destruction, we damaged tissue, etc. We do need to go back and repair that, help connect the communication pathways where everything can communicate. Like you said, the body's so resilient. It's amazing what it can do. You just have to get it to be able to communicate again. If
Yeah.
you've been giving it hormone therapy for a long time, it's too much support. So it's not going to, like, if you go to a gym and you don't have resistance, well, muscles aren't going to grow. You're not going to get stronger. If you're taking hormone therapy, it's not going to make hormones anymore. So
Well, it
you
makes
have
the
to
whole
teach,
system weaker.
yeah, you have to teach the body how to reconnect. A lot of that is cell to cell connection, but also from the brain reconnecting with the cells, tissues, and organs as well.
So I want to just kind of wrap us up with two different comments with that. So first and foremost, for those of you that just were like, wait, what? With the whole thing that you described about the opportunity for now fungus to grow and bacteria to grow, et cetera. I want to kind of give the Cliff Notes version of that is just for those of you that are trying to wrap your head around that, because in our practice, yes, we do help people detox from certain things. But again, we always look at hierarchy because in the time period that we have been working with clients, we have had certain individuals that we've gone in and tried to help them, target parasites or target candida, target SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And some people have had success and some people have not. And the reason being is because usually there is something that is more foundational to as to why those organisms have the opportunity to be in that area and also have the opportunity to grow and multiply. And when it comes to the mental, the psychosomatic aspects of why, there's a level of being out of alignment, being disempowered because you're serving others or you're serving externally more than you're serving yourself, and this allows you to essentially be taken over and hijacked. So that's kind of like a very, very simple version
Yeah,
of
I want to
it.
add one thing to that. It's
Sure.
it's not always just serving others, but it could be serving injected values,
Yes.
beliefs that
You're,
we've been
yes.
taught that this is what we need to do, this is what we should be
This
doing,
is what it
but
is to be
that's
a good person.
but that's not who you are, you
Yeah.
know.
And I think a
And
lot of
and
people battle with that when it comes to, the culture that they grew up in, the religion they grew up in, the political status they grew up in,
Well,
and
even
if
with
they
entrepreneurs, like you had it, like initially, like you thought you needed to be a specific type of entrepreneur. You needed to grow like a huge business, and that was what success was, and that's
yep,
what
yep, yep.
how you were going to love yourself. But that was 99% bullshit.
Well, yeah. Yeah, 100%. It's a matter of really defining like what your type of success is. And I realized that my my version of success was actually just filling a big void that I had from my childhood. And in reality, I wasn't really running a business for the money. I was running a business to fill that gaping fucking hole. So, and then it was when we had a family or we had kids, that's when I was like, I actually want a business that, I really enjoy and love to do and I get to serve, but it also serves me to the equal capacity so that I can serve my family and create generational health and wealth for my family. So like everything pivoted tremendously. So for those of you that have known us for, many, many years, that's the short version of why we transitioned to this version of business compared to what we used to be. And
Yep.
now
So
I
we could
forgot
have
the last
so
point that I wanted to
so we
make.
could have
So
a
here we
healthy
are.
brain, a healthy heart, and a healthy dick.
Oh my God. We're just gonna, that's it. We're done. This
Don't take life too
podcast is over.
serious. Don't take life too serious. You never get out alive.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, guys. So just if you're the entrepreneur burning candles at both ends and biohacking yourself, even though you're still stressed and pumping yourself full of TRT, yeah, don't do that.
Stop it. Stop it.
Stop it.
Stop it.
All right.
Just
See
don't.
you later, everyone.